hater. Pimp, if you want me, you can find me in the air. I'm on it, 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 I'm on it.
Def Jam Icon. It's all about music, money, and mad honeys. What's cracking, peoples? It's Jeff Haynes from the PlayStation team, and this is the video review for Def Jam Icon. The Def Jam franchise has always been grounded in surreal situations. Rappers take on alter egos, fighting in underground fight clubs and arenas, using physics-defying blazing moves to finish off their opponents. Aki used their wrestling expertise to provide a grappling system and move set that actually worked very well with the franchise scenarios. But now, it's 4 years later, Def Jam Icon has moved on to EA Chicago, and there's a little bit of a dose of reality thrown in with record label management and some of the other aspects of becoming a record mogul. Unfortunately, this dose of reality winds up breaking down a lot of those fundamental features that made Def Jam so endearing to fighting fans. The primary thrust of the game is the build-a-label mode. Here you take a nameless scrub from the streets and you attempt to turn him into the next Russell Simmons. You build a character using the face builder mode that they have in the game, and you establish what he's going to look like, his personal fighting style, and even his theme song. From here, you're thrown into a plot filled with backstabbing and betrayal between record labels and record artists, government conspiracies, and even a couple of odd, crooked cop scenarios. Part of the problem with the plot, however, is that they leave a lot of unresolved aspects, partially because of the flashback scenario that they take you through. The other part is because they introduce characters that then all of a sudden fade away or have absolutely no consequence upon the tail end of the story, obviously leading up to a Def Jam Icon 2 sequel. Now, unlike the previous Def Jam games where as you progressed you wound up getting new skills and new moves that you could train and try out at a gym, Def Jam Icon isn't like that. You unlock skills depending upon how successful your artists happen to be on your label. So if you happen to be a really bad record manager, you're not going to unlock new styles, you're not going to upgrade the styles that you happen to have, and you're not going to have that experience that really you'd find at the higher levels of the game. This means that the fighting system is going to be somewhat limited. It already is a little bit limited just because Aki isn't providing its expertise, so a lot of times you only find yourself relying on some button mashing techniques. You've got a few quick high and low strikes, a few strong high and low strikes, and a grapple system which can sometimes be a little hit or miss. The takedowns that you have, while easy to take someone down onto the ground and provide a little amount of damage, are kind of limited and not flashy enough for what a lot of people are looking for in a Def Jam game. So, for the most part, you're really going to be looking towards directional attacks and the environmental hazards that are sprinkled throughout the various levels to injure your opponents. Just like Fight Night Round 3, another EA Chicago title, Def Jam Icon doesn't provide health bars for your fighters. Instead, you rely on visual cues like the look of their face and whether or not it's beat up or scarred or cut, the wear and tear on somebody's clothes, and even color palette shifts that let you know, hey, this person's about to get knocked out and put down fully for the count. Because the fighting system, the grapples, and the takedowns are a little weak, you really are going to find yourself relying heavily on the environmental hazards and the DJ controls. The DJ control system really is a creative concept, being able to manipulate the music by scratching songs, taking songs off the table, and using it to trigger environmental hazards is a nice idea, but it could use a little bit more variety. Part of the problem happens to be that you find yourself constantly going back to that hazard that always inflicts a certain amount of damage on somebody over and over again. This can be fun, but it doesn't fully replace the blazing moves that the previous Def Jam games had. There is one thing to be said about Def Jam Icon, and that's that it looks beautiful. Practically everything in every single environment is destructible. The rappers look very, very close to themselves, with the exception of Luda, because he has actually gotten rid of the cornrows, going more towards a fade. And a lot of the things that you find within the environments are simply incredible. It's also impressive that for the first time in Def Jam franchise history, every single song is uncensored. That way you get the full meaning of what an artist was planning with their release. It sounds great. Hopefully it's one of those things that's going to continue. 360 has a little bit of an advantage over the PS3 in the fact that you can use the My Soundtrack feature, ripping whatever songs you want, throwing it into a solo or a versus game, and basically beating your friends down to any song that you want. It's not enough to really outshadow the PS3 version of the game, but it is a nice little additional feature for 360 owners. So let's break it down on the wheel. Graphics and sound in Def Jam Icon are incredible. Fighting system, on the other hand, a little bit lackluster. Doesn't really live up to the pedigree that the previous Def Jam installments established. The story mode's a little bit weak, although it does set up the promise for a future installment and a sequel for Def Jam Icon 2. And if you happen to have the 360, the My Soundtrack feature is really, really nice. Doesn't add too much, but doesn't detract from the experience either. PS3 owners, sorry, but you're kind of left out in the cold on this one. For more information, take a look at the review on the website. Keep it PI, baby.
That's right. Who's next?